Hello everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com, and don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name Nelson, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all in 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another lovely episode of Straight Chilling. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 254, recorded on Sunday, February 16th, 2020. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the latest from Elijah Wood called Come to Daddy. Before we get into the review, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Astoria, Oregon, we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, Randy?
What's up, baby? How's it going?
Chillin', straight chillin'. How was your Valentine's Day? Your V-Day? How'd it go?
It was good. I got wildly fucked up at a comedy show on actual Valentine's Day, which is not when we were celebrating. So
cool.
That was free reign. And I got really twisted up on some, they had a cocktail punch called the Molly Ringwald. So I was ordering Molly. And the bartender said, I don't think I could recreate this. I don't remember what I put in it. And it was sugar. Sugar is what she put in it, because I had the worst goddamn hangover for a full day yesterday. And I don't regret it, because it was fun as fuck. I also got congratulated for having a really good comedy set on the way out of the building, because I'm a white man with a beard and a flannel shirt, and that's really all it takes to look like every other man in this city. So, that was my Valentine's Day.
You were born to be a comedian. You should have leaned into it, but
it's like I'm just making people laugh just by being fucked up. That is the dream for comedians.
Oh shit! Last but not least, we got our boy Soju calling in from the Southern Korea. What's up, Soju?
What up? It's your boy. Snow stains today, and I'm not talking about the weather, boys. No, I am talking about the weather.
I was gonna. What else?
Really sexual.
I'm on cocaine.
I'm out here freezing my yabos off. We got hit with quite a bit of snow yesterday. It's like the first of the season, pretty much. I'm out here snowed in. Edward Snowden stains.
What? Okay. Well,
no.
Really giving your own nickname to reach around there to make it.
The old reach around.
Well, if nobody else is
blow
going to
some
do
whistles, boys. I'm blowing the whistle on the Straight Chilling crew.
On yourself. Okay. You're the problem.
Our New Year's resolution should be to make more sense.
Yeah.
Well, next year then.
Yeah. We'll give it a year to prep ourselves, and then we'll do it.
Let's go ahead and keep this house real quick. We got a lot of housekeeping. Let's go ahead and talk about some Patreon stuff. First up, the March poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this March. The theme for March is going to be Universal Monster movies, and the 3 movies you can vote between are The Invisible Mang, The Mummy, and The Creature from the Black Lagoon. All of the originals.
Bomb!
Juice.
How are those numbers looking?
Creature is still winning. Invisible Mang is just a couple votes behind. It's not far
coming
behind.
up, huh?
Yeah, The Mummy's way the fuck back there, though. So honestly, The Invisible Mang could come back.
Sorry.
Could come back.
Dude.
Do people not know we're not talking about the Tom Cruise Mummy? Maybe that's the mix-up.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
You might be right.
So it's the Mang versus the Rangoon. Let's see who takes it.
Just to be clear, the Mang versus the Rangoon. That's the final showdown.
I just want to be clearer about what's happening.
We want to be crystal clear.
That's the showdown we're looking at.
Absolutely crystal clear.
Mang versus Rang. Battle for the ages.
Get your votes in before the end of February. There's still a few people, at least, that can get their votes in and change the game. Change the game. Also in Patreon news, we have not one, but two brand new Patreon supporters.
Oh, shit.
We got to give some mad shouts outs to Robbie S. and Lars S. And Lars is hitting us up from fucking Norway, which is the first
Norway.
first Patreon supporter from Norway we've
That's
ever
how
had.
you know he's hard with us.
So
I wonder if he's
So
burned
hard.
any churches down lately.
Lars, what's your church burn record, Lars? Send it over to us.
with our luck, he's like very, very religious and is now incredibly offended by us
And
suggesting
Patreon canceled.
Yeah, immediately. Fuck it.
Immediate.
These guys suck.
This is how we keep listening.
Well, big thanks to Robbie and Lars, and of course, we owe you both the straight chilling salute. This one's going out to you guys.
Slap my ass!
Once again,
Hold on! Slap me in the ass!
we'll play it twice. Why not?
Yeah, slap my ass. I
We
was
make
hoping
the
for a
rules here.
slap me in the ass, but
Our corporate overlords, we buck them sometimes, you know?
Slap me.
I wonder if we should let people request, do they get slap me in the ass or slap me in the ass?
Slap my ass. Slap me in the
Or wait,
ass.
yeah, slap my ass. What do
Oh,
we
wait,
got? What are our
I love
options?
this
Or,
segment
oh,
out of
God.
context.
Oh
This is the
God, slap
greatest.
me in the ass.
Oh God, yeah.
we got a lot of ass
I think
slap
that's-
bumps. Too many.
They're all good. They're all good.
We're gonna get erected.
We are going to get arrested.
Dude, let's go get erected.
We're going to go get arrested.
That's a bump from the 4-star movie The Bing, which we reviewed last week.
So we're starting
shit.
off this shit show with a real situation because Bob's been drinking for like 7 hours or something. So,
Eight
Yeah.
hours.
8
Sorry.
hours.
Sorry, not sorry.
I asked him if he wanted me to host. He declined.
Yeah.
Man doesn't give up the reins of power just like that, Juice. You just don't.
We're a team. We're a very tight-knit team. We got this. We got this.
So tight.
It's a tight-knit team, but it's not a tight show.
No. Last bit of Patreon news I got to mention. So we're opening a brand new tier. This is
We are.
brand new news.
This is news to me.
It's not. So we got a brand new tier we're opening up this week. It's going to be a $10 tier. You're going to be able to vote in the monthly poll pick. You're going to get a straight chilling sticker. You're going to get a Cooter Club sticker. You're also going to get a brand new sticker sheet. Sticker sheet with 6 individual stickers on it.
Well,
I don't even have that.
I don't even have
If you sign up, sign up on Patreon, you can get it.
Well, we'll see.
So you're going to get a sticker
That's
sheet.
the only way.
And you're also going to get access to exclusive content available only to Patreon subscribers at the $10 level.
That's right. We got a VIP room in this bitch now.
VIP.
Whoa, there's bottles.
Yep. So we've got like a solid 4 or 5 mini shows pre-recorded, ready to go for the $10 tier. And it's basically, we're going to be adding to that bank like each month. So you're going to get new episodes each month going straight to that $10 tier on Patreon. We're trying to make it worth your while. So check it out.
Yeah, we're going to be building up a whole new like back catalog over on the Patreon. You're going to have like 2 shows over there.
Yeah.
Back end catalog, the ass catalog of the shows.
Old ass catalog. That should be
Real
the name
poop
of this
shoot
tier.
of shows.
Poop shoot tier. $10
Bob
tier.
is so disappointed. He spends so much time putting these things together, and we just
Trying to pitch it.
bring them down.
Trying to pitch it. It's not working.
Rob
out.
builds the
Trying to be
sandcastles and we
professional.
kick them over. This is what we do.
Here we are.
Dynamic here.
We're a great team. We work so well together. Anyway, that's going to be live sometime early to mid this week. Check that out. That's all I got for Patreon news. Justin, what you got going on?
Oh my God. Bracket of blood.
Bracket of blood.
Oh my god! I feel like I can like crawl into a grave happy now. This is over.
Damn.
Let's talk about
We nailed it.
straight chillin' history in the making. Bracket of Blood has concluded the first ever Bracket of Blood. And the
First
winner,
and only ever bracket of
the first of many
It was like
brackets
3
of bloods
months
have
in the
finished.
making. 3
We're gonna do
months.
3 of these a year from now on.
No, we're not.
Dude, more than 3 months. 3 months in participation.
Yeah.
Like 7 months in.
So, if you didn't know, let me tell you, we have been running the Bracket of Blood for the past 3 months. We started at the beginning of December. And from that, we wanted to decide what was the greatest horror film of the past decade. We started with 128 films, 4 divisions. And after 3 months of voting, you guys have decided that Hereditary from Ari Aster, 2018, is in fact the greatest horror film of the past decade.
Okay, yeah. Congrats to Hereditary.
Congratulations.
Question: how many did either of you guys suspect Hereditary for the top spot? Was this this was a front runner for me, and I'm curious.
So I did a mini episode back in January, kind of covering.
Which I don't listen
we
to,
had just yes, of course, just moving into the second round, like we were going into round 2, and so I wanted to, and I gave a prediction of I thought either The Conjuring or Hereditary would take it. Those were my guesses.
Yeah.
I really thought it'd be Get Out, but Hereditary was a really close second in that.
Yeah. There's probably like a group of 5 movies that I would have like guaranteed it was one of. Hereditary was in there for sure. I always wanted It Follows to take it. To be honest, I'm kind of shocked that it made it to the top 2.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would
me
make
too.
it over.
I think we all are. Yeah.
Hereditary wouldn't have been my pick to win it all, but honestly, I think it's a worthy film. I think it deserves it.
I think so.
Yeah, I am not ashamed to call it the greatest horror film of the decade. I think it's fitting, and that's what the people decided. The people,
even though
we are men of the people.
You know, it's all the will of the people, and we gave them what they wanted. It was fucking Hereditary again.
So thank you all, for voting. And if you would like, thanks to Randy Gandy G Landy, the whole beautiful brackets can be downloaded in a high def format that I can't
4K
talk about professional.
Large format.
You can watch this bracket in 4K.
You can watch
on your
this
new
still
Steel
image.
book.
It'll do your taxes. It'll get you a job. It's great.
Okay, let's not bring up Tom Waits into this.
But
I know where your brain is, bitch. Don't even play. Trying to ape Tom Waits on
We
this
are
shit.
friends.
If you would like to see the full bracket, you can at straightchillingpodcast.com with Hereditary right there in the middle at the center as the winner. So congratulations. Thank you all for voting. It has been fun. Take a rest, Randy, until Bracket of Blood 2.0.
I picked out the perfect coffin. It's going to be great.
Also, we just hit 400 subscribers on YouTube.
Hey, thank
That's
God.
my new thing. I'm just clapping, bro.
Dude. This is. I'm getting flashes of all those times we were in movie theaters and you started slow claps at the end of terrible movies.
Dude, that was my jam. They don't do that here in Korea. Nobody claps, so I don't do it.
It's because they have a contract.
Nobody did it here. You did it.
No,
Dude, I always started it. I always started the slow clap.
You did it. Nobody else did it.
No,
That's not true.
That's not true though, because I have definitely been in theaters without Juice present where people started clapping at the end of like fucking, I don't know, Captain Marvel.
No,
or
that's
some
not
shit.
true.
Juice
Bob.
is part of the problem.
Oh yeah, Suicide Squad's over. Now,
Thank God.
thanks DC.
So 400 subscribers on YouTube. Do you guys remember when we were begging day and night for 100 subscribers so we could get that custom URL?
Remember
and now
when
look
you
at
were-
us.
Yeah, like. Yeah, I remember when you were offering Handy J's in the street for fucking YouTube
in the
subscribers.
street.
Just subscribe.
I gave out a lot of
The
handy
Streets of
J's.
Soul got a lot of white boy Handy J's that night.
Yes, sir. Now we're at 400, and tomorrow, Tuesday, you'll be getting a brand new video game review on that YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Straight Chillin' Podcast. I'm going to be talking about the Blair Witch Project, the game. So that'll be going up this week. Thank you to everyone who likes, subscribes, comments. We really # appreciate you. And I think that's That's a lot of housekeeping. I think
This house is capped.
The
Yes,
Bear
sir.
Winch Project video game review.
That is what I'll be covering. Bob's favorite
Dude.
porno.
We should review that on this podcast. Anyway, go on.
Also, keep an eye out for a new episode of Let's Get Physical Media dropping this Tuesday in your podcast feed. That's all I've got to say. Now this house has been kept.
Oh, okay. I listened to your latest episode, Bob, and I'd like to say I heard many disturbing things, such as double buy. I really need that slip. Target exclusive slip.
Where did Bob go wrong? Were he and his friends sifting way too long through those Blu-ray bins? And it gets worse, he'll have no debts. He wasted all his dough on those DVDs.
You heard it here first, people. This train is still a rolling. We're still trying to save that life
Randy.
from afar
Yeah,
now.
Randy has
Real
way
quick
too
for the
much
list-
power. Jeez.
For the listeners at home, Bob, have you watched the Blade trilogy?
No, I haven't. You know what?
Purchased back in August.
I'm just kidding.
Maybe
Purchased back in August. Bob has not watched it yet.
Maybe I'll watch it and do a mini cast on it for the $10 tier on Patreon. That would be
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
potentially
Wow.
of interest.
Whoa.
Potentially.
Things are meticulously planned around here.
It would seem so, but they are not.
Oh, yeah. You would think that we just came up with that idea. You'd be wrong. That idea's been in the
Oh.
can for weeks.
Years. All right, this house has been kept. Let's go ahead and talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, what have you been
We
watching?
start with me? I am caught up finally with The Outsider, which I've been enjoying greatly. That's an interesting show because it really starts with a true detective sort of feel, and then really just goes very Stephen King, like real hard at a certain point. And I would prefer it be true detective-y, but I'm still enjoying it for what it is. It's still like a pretty good central mystery, and the acting is pretty damn good. And it's a sprawling story, which I appreciate. Like the amount of effort it takes to put that sort of thing, on film well, which is what HBO does so well, is like these big ensemble situations. I'm enjoying it, so we'll see how it ends or whatever. Stephen King can't write an ending and all that shit, so we'll see what happens. But I also watched. We went to one of the small theaters here. Played the short films that were nominated for Oscars this year, and they were all, with the exception of one, extremely fucking sad. So we did that, and also very, very good. And like, there was not a bad one in the bunch. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty. It was pretty grueling emotionally for the first. Like they closed on the happy one or the funny one, which. Thank Christ, because that theater would have been like fucking people walking out of The Notebook. You guys remember that? We were working at the movie theater as high schoolers. The Notebook was playing, and there would just be like people with their lives had been broken by this movie coming out of the theater with just mascara and shit running down their face. It was a real thing, and that was where we were headed with these. But there was like some true stories that were really fucked up. There was one, the very first one they showed, was a woman who was like just started with this woman in a car being driven by a man, and she calls 911, but he doesn't know it's 911. She's like, oh, I gotta call my sister, and it turns out she's like being held against her will and shit. It's really fucking intense, and it's not horror necessarily, but it's right in that realm. I would recommend it, and I'm gonna have to look up what the name of it is and add it into the show notes, but it's good shit. I can't remember which one ended up winning, but I also watched The Killing, that Kubrick movie from the 50s. You guys familiar with that one? It's a Criterion thing. That's how it showed up on my list. But
I haven't.
No.
Okay, so it's a pretty old fashioned movie. It's literally like down to the voiceover. It is a crime novel from the 50s, and it's got that. It feels like right at the sort of like tail end of film noir, almost like self-aware to a little bit of a degree, but using that really like fine-tuned Kubrick lens for everything. It was really fucking cool. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's very hokey by today's crime movie standards, but I don't know. I thought it was really effective for its time, and it looked great. So those are good. And then the last thing, I didn't watch this, but I got a game which I think might interest our listeners called Campy Creatures. It's a card, kind of a card game.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's basically themed after like just campy creatures from horror movies. There's like really like the dopest fucking illustrations of Frankenstein, kaiju, like anything, vampires, and they all do different things, and you're battling to like be the number one mad scientist or some shit. I don't know. It's like the premise is kind of negligible, but it's like just a beautiful fucking game. So I recommend that. And it's a lot of fun. It is fun. It's sort of like a 20-minute commitment. So it's a low impact thing too. And I just wanted to give that a shout out because I'm enjoying it so much. And again, that illustration, so fucking good. Campy Creatures. It's on Amazon. Buy it.
Campy Creatures. Cool.
Sweet deal. Juice, what have you been watching?
I've been going through that Lock and Key series. Not all. I'm like episode 8, I think, out of 10. So getting close to finish. It's really good. It's like a really good, like accessible, like show, like family kind of show. But like I'm enjoying like watching it on my own. And I have not read like what are their comics, graphic, like I don't know. I can't remember how they're presented. Are they books? Or
graphic novels? Yeah. There's like
the graphic novel. Okay,
5 or 6 issues.
I couldn't remember the medium. I knew you had read them, but yeah, I haven't read them, but I'm enjoying them. The intro is really cool, or the intros. They do a different one for each one. It's just really like quick animation. But I'm enjoying it. There is some dark elements in there. Like kids like legit die and stuff, which is not something you see a lot, but it's still like really whimsical and accessible, and I don't know. I like it.
That sounds a lot like I've heard the comparison before, but that sounds a lot like a series of unfortunate events on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the comparison. It's not as like whimsical as that. That's like very. That's played like very.
I was gonna say that's almost like to my mind to a fault with that show. As much as I liked it, it was a little bit. I don't know, a little too kid friendly for my taste because I'm a 30-year-old man. But I'm sure the kids that watched it appreciated being able to watch it. So
yeah, it's not quite that level, but it is accessible even to children. So
that's good. I like that those things exist because I don't know.
Yeah, you need something to watch with their
There's a lot of extreme horror movies or like really adult like driven horror movies, and like that's I don't know. There needs to be a ramp up for some kids like we were. Like fucking Return to Oz was mine, even though it wasn't supposed to be a horror in any way. That shit scared the deep poop out of my body. So
literally.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, which we had covered this on one of our Halloween specials. Not Zack Snyder's, but we had covered the original Dawn of the Dead. And it was interesting because all you guys had seen that one before seeing the original Dawn of the Dead, and I hadn't. And this was my first time watching it, so it was interesting to see. I do like how it was covered. The way I like remakes generally, if I've seen like both films, it's kind of like a cover song. Like I want people to like have their own interpretation. Like I don't want it to be like Psycho, where it's like literally like shot for shot the same. It's like just like try to make like. That's what I liked about like Suspiria a lot and stuff. It's just like being inspired by it, but being able to kind of make it your own. And I thought Dawn of the Dead did really well with that. Having like the same kind of idea of setting, but generally like the characters weren't the same. Like the problems weren't like really the same so I liked that. And I thought it was really solid actually. No blue zombies.
Hashtag.
Yeah. And I finally, just yesterday, I watched Parasite again. Since it won the Oscars, they were like bringing it back in the theaters here. So I watched it one more time in the theater. And even though I knew how it ended, I got like really choked up at the end. And
did you clap?
I did not clap.
What the fuck?
I know it's not how career rolls.
Catwoman or something.
But I really enjoy that movie. It's so harsh because it starts out like so fun, and like going in knowing that all like the time they spent like having fun with these characters. I know it's just to like bring you down. So just like knowing that it's just like, oh shit, by the end, it's just like really tough. But so great movie. I still really, really enjoyed it. Picked up on a couple new things that I didn't notice the first time. So I was glad for the rewatch. And I think that's about it.
Sweet deal.
Mom?
Yo.
What have you been watching?
You know, one thing I forgot to mention during the housekeeping, which I should have, I was recently fortunate enough to join the horror cast for episode number, I think, 73, which was one of their Rotten Round Table episodes in which we largely talk about what we've been watching. We talk about some horror news and stuff. So I just want to
Wait, I don't think you mentioned the cast.
Horror cast.
Hey, horror cast.
Oh, you did? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure you mentioned it.
It is called Horror Cast, one word.
Yeah.
Get it anywhere you get your podcast. So I just wanted to throw that out there and give a big thanks to Mark, NATO, and the Taminator for having me on the show. So check it out. As far as what I've been watching this week, Valentine's Day came and went, and I revisited My Bloody Valentine 3D, which is the 2009 remake of My Bloody Valentine from 1980. Have you guys seen that remake? You familiar with that?
I have, but it's been a long time. I couldn't tell you a detail about it.
Okay.
I am not familiar with that. I saw that you had the Blu-ray though. I saw that you were posting about how it makes you like download the digital.
Well, it doesn't make you do that. So yeah, this one interesting thing. I picked this up from Amazon for like $5. It was very cheap. It was
super cheap, very cheap.
It was on
always
Blu-ray.
real cheap.
It was. It was on Blu-ray, but I got it, and the disc was definitely from 2009. And it came with a second disc that was like a downloadable copy, which I've never seen.
Wow.
I've never seen that before. I never bought it. Any release that had that. It's like download it to Windows, download it to Mac. I don't know.
Huh.
It was.
Let's get digital.
But this remake has Tom Atkins in it, and he's like a cop, like he always is. It's just, honestly, I think it's a pretty solid remake. It's like gory as hell. Most of it is practical. It's like hilariously 3D. Where like, I don't have a 3D TV, so I'm not watching this in 3D. But like, they linger on things that are supposed to be like pointing out at you. You know. Much like Friday the 13th Part 3, they linger on these things that are supposed to blow your mind, and you're like, this is so silly. It's just so silly. Overall, though, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the hell out of it. As far as remakes go, I think it's very, very successful, and I recommend you check it out. My Bloody Valentine 3D. Also, I watched a new release called VFW, which is the latest picture that was produced from Fangoria, directed by Joe Begos. If you've seen the previous Fangoria produced movies, you kind of know what you're getting into here. They made Satanic Panic prior to this, and also Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich. All of these movies are like very gore heavy, very practical effects heavy, low budget type pictures. VFW very much reminds me of Assault on Precinct 13. It's like it's a low budget siege movie, very much inspired by Carpenter, and it's got like a simple type synth score, very much like Carpenter. So it's about these old dudes holding up in a VFW in this like post-apocalyptic type world where like these punk kids are addicted to this like new hip drug called hype. And they're
Lord.
This one, yeah. It
couldn't be called Yeet.
Jeez, us. So if you're like addicted to this hype drug, yeah, okay, yeah, you're referred to as a hyper. So this one chick steals a pile of this hype drug and runs into the VFW for cover, and these guys like try and help her out and protect her and stuff. So you got this like army of like mutant punk kids versus this like army of old motherfucking retired soldiers, and they just have at it.
I gotta tell you,
that sounds like it was directed. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that premise sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to say that premise sounds like it was written and directed by Clint Eastwood.
No, there's not enough Oscar bait in that premise.
Yeah, true. I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. It's I think it's only on VOD and a very limited theatrical release currently. I rented it off Amazon. I recommend checking it out. It's going to get a physical release at the end of March, I think. So if you want to wait for the disc, you can do that as well. But it's absolutely worth your time. As far as the three movies that Fangoria's put out, this is my favorite of the three, by far. There's
something about really old dudes whooping ass that is a delight to watch, especially against zombie type thing, like things that you have no feeling towards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just want to put that out there for the world to know.
Yeah, it's a fun time. It's very fun. The last thing I want to mention, something I watched earlier today, is the latest film by writer, director, producer, actor Jeremy Gardner. The movie's called After Midnight. This was also released on this past Friday, February 14th. It's
Patsy Cline story.
Totally. You can rent this on iTunes, Amazon. It's if you're familiar with Jeremy Gardner, previously wrote, produced, directed, starred in a movie called The Battery. It's a indie zombie film that came out a few years ago. Scream Factory put it out on Blu-ray. This movie is incredible. I think it's my favorite release of the year so far, which obviously we're only in February, so it's early. But for what it is, it's like the perfect indie horror type movie for me. So he makes these movies on a shoestring budget, talking about $5,000 to $10,000, very, very low budget movies. Some people refer to them as mumble horror, if you're into that, if you're familiar with mumblecore films.
Mumble horror?
Yeah. Yes.
God, genres need to take a seat. This is too much.
That's not self-proclaimed.
Sit down, genre.
This
genre titles.
Take a load off, genre. What I mean by that is this man does what he can to the best of his ability. So he's got no money to work on. However, if you're watching this movie, you would think he would have way more money to work with than he actually does. So the writing, the acting, the editing, the score, it's all it's very, very tight. It's very, very well crafted. And it's very much about the characters. You buy into the characters and the emotional arc, and there's also some creature effects in there. But I would say don't watch this expecting it to be this balls to the walls horror movie. It's very much a character study, but it's incredible. I enjoyed it very thoroughly, and I recommend you check it out. After Midnight.
He should direct the Straight Chillin' film, since we're working on such a low budget.
Yeah.
What would he film?
He'd have to take a pay cut. But that's what I've been watching this week. That's all I got.
Dope. Hey, Bob.
Yo.
Let's talk about the movie, huh?
Let's talk about the main feature. Kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
It's this little movie called Come to Daddy.
The most upsetting titled movie I can think of.
I watched the porno. I hope everyone else, that's what we're covering.
Is there another one? There's one.
You're not supposed to look for this movie on Pornhub.
So this movie...
I want to keep riffing on that, but we should move on.
We should, and we will. This movie's called Come to Daddy. Came out a week ago. It's starring Elijah Wood, Stephen McCaddy, Garfield Wilson, some other people. This is directed by Ant Timpson, who has done a lot of producing. This is his feature-length directorial debut. So the plot synopsis is as follows. A man in his 30s travels to a remote cabin to reconnect with his estranged father. And then some crazy shit happens. So
what?
Some crazy shit happens. So this is a brand new movie. We have not seen it before, obviously. Randy, would you recommend people check out
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. It's a pretty light recommend for me.
All right.
I've given that no thought, but I don't. This is not. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of people that call this not a horror movie, and in fact, one very prominent person has said the same thing. Mr. Dick Bibbs, Mr. Joe Bob has apparently called this not a horror movie, but I haven't looked into this particular review. But yeah, I think that's fair. Like, there's not a whole lot of horror elements, as much as I don't care about that topic. If you're looking for something that's like pretty focused on a limited number of characters and that, you know, really uses its environment to its advantage and things like that, you could do a lot worse in this movie. So it's a light recommend from me.
Juice, what about you?
I've made it clear that, like, I don't really trust Elijah Wood or enjoy most of the things that he does.
Like with your finances, or like, how do you know?
I just don't like the guy very much.
Really?
No, yeah, I've said it like several times, and it like we could talk about it more in the context of this movie, but despite that, I did have this film in like my top 5 anticipated horror films to see this year, because I was really intrigued by the trailer. Like, the one thing I was like, they sold it as like very suspenseful and like maybe horror-esque. And one of the things that intrigued me from the trailer was the setting. So I was like, okay, they're selling this as a horror movie, but you're like in this like lush beach setting. And we had just got like Midsummer, which was, you know, kind of like going off that same idea. So I was really intrigued by it. That's what kind of sold me. But like, I feel like I've been duped a little bit. And I don't think I would particularly recommend this movie. I don't think I'd like sway anybody from watching it, but I don't want to convince anybody to do it either.
Yeah. I would generally recommend you check it out. But it's not like a wholehearted recommend, you know. It's like, check it out, you know. You'll probably enjoy it.
Stop cheating off my work.
You'll probably enjoy it.
I did it.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a light recommend. It's not like this. Yeah, it's not a movie that I would go out of my way to convince somebody about. But
yeah,
if they were like, "Oh, I like Elijah Wood," I'm like, okay, it's worth your watch, probably.
I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, like I was saying, if somebody's like, "I'm gonna check out Kind of Daddy," I want to be like, "No, don't watch that horse shit.
Watch The Being instead."
And I wouldn't also be like, "Dude, your life's gonna change. You're about to become a complete person."
The Being.
Yeah, it's worth a peek.
No, but you want a 4-star film? Oh, you need to watch The Being.
That's absolutely correct.
Oh my god!
Sounds like a very half-mass recommend here from the
Satan must be stopped at every opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Elijah Wood. Oh, dude, man.
I watched this movie with Becky.
Yeah.
And Becky immediately was turned completely off by everything that that Elijah Wood's character was in this movie.
I think that was like designed, though.
I know, I think so. Like, and that's where I seem to be like, there seems to be a disconnect between people's reaction to this movie and what I saw, because I don't think you're supposed to like, I think he's supposed to be a pretty pathetic personality.
Yeah.
Within the context of the film. Yeah, like this movie's chock full of those fuckers, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
And maybe that's my thing with Elijah Wood, because I was thinking about it. He generally, when he plays a role, he either plays somebody that's like very like creepy or pathetic. And maybe I've just like wrapped those aspects into how I view him as a person, because he does have these very kind of like creepy eyes, and he does like generally like come off like very kind of like pathetic. I don't know. I just like don't like the guy, and like none of the roles he's ever played, I feel like, oh my God, like Elijah Wood, because usually it's not a very likable character. And so it's hard for me to like get behind Elijah Wood. But
I like Elijah Wood a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
really? I don't.
Within the community, first and foremost, I think, because he does a lot in the horror space that is, you know, stuff that otherwise wouldn't get like funding or wouldn't get attention, he brings to light, which I appreciate those things about him as a person. I think he's probably a pretty fucking cool dude.
Would not exist without Color Out of Space.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Also,
right.
So Ant Timpson, the director of this movie, has done a lot of producing. Like I mentioned previously, he produced Turbo Kid, which is incredible. Deathgasm, which is also fantastic.
Those are very different movies in this, though.
True. Yeah. Turbo Kid 2 is coming out. They are very, very different movies. But I don't know. Like, I dig this movie. I dig Elijah Wood, but it's like not great. I feel like they're trying to. This movie reminded me a lot of Shyamalan, M. Night Shyamalan, specifically the Visit, where like their grandparents are not their grandparents. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Bob, spoiler.
We dropped the spoiler warning. We dropped it.
Not for the visit.
Not for the visit, man. Come on. Drinking for 8 hours, thinks he can spoil anything in the spoiler warning zone. No.
You're ruining Shyamalan's career, Bob. That's what he's built it on. You have to wait.
Shyamalan's whole career could be ruined.
Last 10 minutes.
Shyamalan's entire career could be ruined by some asshole riding by a movie theater and screaming one sentence. So you got to be careful with those spoilers for Shyamalan.
I think Glass ruined his career, not me. Not me talking on this podcast.
You don't think there's a happening?
Some hot takes from Mr. Hotcakes.
From Mr. Hotcakes. So this movie is produced by Ant Timpson and the New Zealand Film Commission. So this actually got money from New Zealand.
Even though it's not set in New Zealand, it's set in America and features, as far as I can tell, mostly, if not all, American actors.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on anybody being from
at least everybody's using American accents and play acting American.
Yeah. The movie opens up with a couple quotes, which I found to be kind of humorous. The first one is from Sir William Shakespeare. It says, "The sins of the father are laid upon the children." Then we get a follow-up quote from the one, the only Beyonce, and it says, "There is no one else like my daddy."
Becky was like, I wonder fucking how William Shakespeare would feel being up there with Beyonce. And I was like, shit, how do you think Beyonce feels? Oof, that is not her demo.
Yeah.
Especially, being featured on this movie. Like,
it's such an interesting comparison.
Man, this movie feels like a real like try hard. Like the quirkiness that they throw in there. It just felt, and even like the get up of Elijah Wood and like how he's betrayed and how he comes off, and then the twists and turns that you get, it just felt like they were trying too hard to be quirky and offbeat and like kind of like surprise you and like subvert expectations. It didn't feel smooth to me. It didn't feel intriguing to me. Like I didn't really enjoy a lot of the choices that they made.
There was for that whole until Elijah actually shows up at the house of his father. That whole scene with him wearing the hat or whatever. Becky and I were having a quiet debate between the two of us about whether or not he was like a deeply like religious cultist, or maybe some variety of Amish, or if he was just like an intense hipster. That haircut and mustache situation is hard to overlook, by the way. It's really hard to see him. It is.
Randy, Becky brought a certain thing to all of our attention earlier today about her Instagram feed. I would love for you to delve into that momentarily.
Okay, I'll talk about Becky's Instagram feed on our podcast. Becky has a lot of friends from work and etc. After watching this movie, she combed through her Instagram for a few minutes and found like 5 examples of women wearing that dumbass fucking hat that he wears at the beginning of this movie. And she's like, "Elijah, is that you?" To all of them. I'm like, that's just her new thing, as she points out Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood, specifically from this movie. That hat, man. When it blew away, both Becky and I go, "Thank God!"
And it blew away within like the first 2 minutes. And it's not like
until that point, I was like, "I can't take this movie serious. I can't take this man seriously right now. That hat's got to go," because he looks like the fucking kid from Children of the Corn, but he's not scary. He's not intimidating in the least. I don't know.
He's got what's like some. So he's super hipster. He's got like this gold phone that's like designed by Lord.
Let's get into the plot a little bit here.
Well, yeah, I was trying. So there's this hipster kid. He's super, but he shows up at his dad's house, his estranged dad. He hasn't seen him since he was 5. And his dad is not like, his dad is like this
Weird
rough
as
and
fuck.
gruff, like isolated kind of hermit, just drinking himself, alcoholic, like loves fight stories.
He's bad Santa, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Chilling in this like isolated beach house. And Elijah Wood hasn't seen him, I think, since he was 5 years old.
Yeah,
I think
5.
that's what he says.
That's what we eventually found that out. Yeah,
They have
He has sent a letter.
relationship. Mhm.
Elijah was sent a letter by his father, and we don't like get the contents of that till much later. But it was asking him to come and like bury the hatchet, and I know I did you wrong. If you want to come and have a relationship, we can do that. And then his dad's like just staring at him as he shows like, "Hey, I came because you wrote me this letter. You remember the letter?" And he's like, "Oh," and then he hugs him like big, and he's like, "Come on in, you're staying here," and all this blah blah blah, and like he lets him stay there. Of course, he's staying in this really bizarre like round house, which I thought was a really cool house, to be honest.
It was a cool design, yeah.
Yeah.
And he said right on the beach. It looks awesome.
It was a beautiful
Elijah
location.
Wood's character, whose name is Norval, describes the house as a UFO from the 1960s.
Yeah, and that's not off the mark, you know.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they're staying there, and over the course of a couple days he's there, or like, well, the first couple days he's there, his dad's like acting real weird. He won't like get real with him. At one point, Norval tries to like brag to him about all these music industry connections that he has, Elton John, and then his dad totally calls him on it. And like, I'm like, I can't decide who here is the more pathetic person. Is it the like incredibly drunk man who's getting off on like destroying his own kid's self-esteem, or is it the kid who has to lie about knowing Elton John to feel like he's impressing
I
his
kind
dad?
of love that scene though. That's one of the best scenes of the movie to me.
It was a good scene.
I
And
agree,
it was
yeah.
also kind of intense, and we're both in the dark. We're all in the dark.
Yeah, yeah. At this point, you don't
which is
know
really
what's going on, and they're both trying to get one over on each other, but you don't know that offhand.
Yeah, and you don't know for sure which one, if not both, are lying. You eventually find out they both were lying about knowing Elton John. And basically a bluff was called, and it is fun to watch, and like kicks off this sort of like this like completely like confrontational relationship. And Norval eventually is like, "Well, look, you wrote me a letter, man. You owe me an explanation for why you wanted me to come here if you're just going to be a dick to me." And his dad's like, "Fuck you, you're a cunt," and that's it. And he's like, he's like, "No, you owe me an explanation."
The first time Norval asks him about the letter and he's like, "Why did you ask me to come here?" His dad just says, "I gotta take a shit." Like gets up and walks away.
And he's also like saying things hushedly behind closed doors and stuff. He's the one that drops Norval's Lord fucking inspired phone into the ocean by accident.
Hilarious.
Which was hilarious, like when you thought it was his dad, but like makes a lot more sense later on.
Yeah.
And then, so all of this to say, like at a certain point, things come to a head. Norval's like, "You know what? No, fuck you, Dad. You owe me an explanation for my whole life," which is a fair critique. But especially as it's like as much of a shitbag as his dad was being. He's like, "You must have written that letter drunk because you don't even remember writing it. You don't have any desire to see me now." And then his dad comes in with a fucking butcher's knife, and he's like, "You're a rat fucker. I'm gonna put rats in your vagina," and all this shit. And he's like starts attacking this kid, and he's just about to like stab him with this knife, and he drops dead of a heart attack. So they call the coroner. He calls his mom. He calls all these people, and he has to stay there over. And this is where things get fucking. Obviously, that's like a huge thing that I didn't see coming because I didn't assume there was a mistaken identity, but it turns out that was not his father. We find that out a little bit later.
Yeah.
In the meantime, he calls the coroner. He's like dealing with his dad's death. He's like, "Geez, I don't like." He says all these things to a corpse about his emotional state and all this stuff. And then
so hang on. So they call the coroner, but the thing there's like been a flooding or something.
That's the weirdest scene in the movie.
Yeah, that was very weird. But so she embalms the body, but she can't keep it there, so she has to bring it back to the house.
That
so
doesn't make any sense, by the way.
Yeah, it doesn't. So now you have this situation where Elijah Wood is like isolated. And he
falling
like
off the
came
wagon
to
of his
reconnect
alcoholism.
with his father. Yeah, like at first he was saying like he wasn't drinking with his dad because he's like, I'm a recovering alcoholic. And then he starts drinking again, and he's like here with this dead body. So now I'm thinking like, okay, this is a movie now where this guy's got to deal with like all of this shit. And he's like with this corpse isolated. He tries to make like a move on the woman who picked up the body. She rejects him because he's obviously very drunk.
The woman's name, the coroner's name is Gladys Clondickle.
Okay.
Like in the character's name?
That is the character's name. It's worth noting. Gladys Clondickle. Come on.
Okay. Gladys Clondickle. Okay. We never hear that in the film, but yes.
We do.
Her last, really? Yeah. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Aren't you being a little stupid?
Nope.
I guess so.
Just paid attention.
So, but then it gives us another twist. So yeah, you don't expect the dad to die, and then you're not really sure what's going to come after that. Then you get this other twist where Elijah Wood finds out there's a hatch in this house, and he goes down.
Yeah, he's been hearing sounds at night. And
kind of
you think that it's
Parasite.
Repulsion.
The Oscar-winning Parasite.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Actually, Becky made that comparison too. And she's like, yeah, there is sort of like so there's a basement situation in the dark, and then the really bright, lovely home.
Spoiler warning for Parasite, sorry.
I mean,
well, and it's Rob just fucking everybody's shit up. It's kind of like a reverse like Parasite in a way, in that this one starts like teasing you with horror, like you think it's going to be a horror movie, but then by the end it goes like a lot lighter. Like, I mean, not necessarily in like what happens, but like the tone, it's just like becomes a lot more goofy.
Well, it becomes it's a really bizarre sort of like it a lot at a certain point in this movie. I think about like 35 minutes in, I paused it and I was like, to go to the restroom or something, and I was thinking to myself, man, like not a lot's happening. So, and I was totally thinking the same thing, Justin, that we were going towards like a Repulsion sort of situation where it's a dude locked up alone in the house with his father's corpse, his estranged father's corpse, and what's he going to imagine about all this? And even the fucking coroner was like, you know, when my husband died, I spoke to his corpse and got out all the things that I had held back against him in his life. Yeah, and it really helped me. I'm like, that really doesn't play a role in this movie. That line of thinking, it's a really like. It's very strongly indicated to me that that's what this is going. And it totally did not go that way. He finds this hatch. He's been hearing these sounds at night, and he finds this hatch. His dad's tied up in chained up underneath the fucking primary house, and has clearly been tortured and been cut up and carved, and his eyes been like maybe cut out. I can't really tell. Like, he's fucked. His
ear is definitely gone.
His ear is gone.
He's missing an ear.
Which is something that the guy who was killed... he bragged about kicking someone's ear off. It turned out it was his real dad who he has in the basement, which is pretty goddamn dark. The only reason he realizes that this is his dad was not his dad, the guy who was living there and who died in a heart attack. The only reason he knows that that's not his real dad is because he finds, like, in this little cubby hole, like an old photo album with his dad, pictures of him and his dad.
His real dad, yeah.
And he's like, this looks nothing like the guy. It was definitely not the guy. And then he investigates the sounds and finds his dad. And his dad's like, okay, so here's the deal. We have about 90 seconds. Two guys are about to come down here, and they're going to torture me and then kill me. You have to kill them first. And Norval, the person who wrote artist next to profession on the coroner report, is not prepared to deal with that.
He's so pathetic. They just like, so he's like, all right, you're either like got to kill this guy or he's going to like torture us down here in this dungeon, which is obvious. Like, the dude's missing an ear. He's fucked. He's chained terribly. So he's like, pick up the barbell, hide in this closet, and like, you got to pop out and you got to kill him. Like, you got to kill him. And so then this fucking Weird Al motherfucker shows up.
Dude, Tiny Tim. That is Cockney ass Tiny Tim walks in.
Yeah, strolls down, and
he's got the doo-doo
trying to
pin.
get some. Oh, that's what it was. Oh my god, this movie! I just like. So yeah, he's like got this pin that's like he's smeared in his
like
own
an ink
shit,
pen,
and he
which
like
is such a weird choice, by the way.
Yeah, he goes in this like dialogue about it, like, I've smeared this pen and shit, and I'm gonna stab you with it, and you're gonna get like infected. Like, he's gotta like explain it, and so he stabs him with the doo-doo pin, and then the dad like gives him away. Yeah, he's trying to get information.
He's trying to get information, which is like, for me, like sitting from Norval's spot at this point, I'm like, okay, you're hiding in the closet. You don't even really 100% know who this man is. He seems to be your dad, but you've been fooled once already.
Yeah.
So you're not 100% sure. The other guy's dead. This guy's clearly been tortured. You have an obligation, no matter who he is, to help him out.
Yeah.
But now you're hearing like there's clearly some shady shit going on here, and who do you trust in that situation? Like, this is a conversation between mobsters. Who's the good mobster? You know what I'm saying? Like, so
but
there's a situation that's like not even a moral quandary, like a survival quandary. Okay, is it the right move to kill the guy? And like,
well, I think that's the biggest thing. Once you see that he like is willing to like stab somebody and obviously has them chained up in a basement, at that point, like whether it's your dad or not, it's like I have to get out of this alive. And Elijah Wood just like fucks it.
Well, his dad fucks it for him. Like, if his dad could have like he's clearly already been tortured a lot, and like it's tough to ask him for a lot more than that. But if he's sitting there in a closet, like, which is not close to the man. It's not like he's right behind him and can jump out in like one swift move. And all he has is a 15-pound weight, which it looks like Norval has never lifted a weight in his entire life.
He has a hard time holding that.
He has a hard time with that 15-pound weight. So yeah, he's hiding in this fucking like closet, and this fucking Tiny Tim motherfucker finally finds out that he's there because his dad's like, kill him, because he's getting tortured. It's hard to be too pissed at him, but at the same time, like, dude, I can. Like, the more distracted the man is, the better chance he has of getting these 20 yards across.
But at this point, like, his dad has been stabbed with the doo-doo pin. So he's like, you need to get your ass in gear, because I'm getting stabbed with the doo-doo pin. I was kind of pissed at the dad. Was like, but you can't really, because he's being tortured.
Norval like runs out, chases the guy off. The guy gets away, and then as he's running away, he says he's gonna come back with his little friend, and you're like, what the fuck does that mean? And Norval's dad is like, his little friend.
Oh, it's the hunchback.
His little friend is called Dandy, and he's the hunchback, and he's gonna kill the fuck out of us. So Norval's like trying to break his dad loose. And
getting to know you. Getting to know all about you.
Exactly. We get to know about his dad, who apparently was like a small-time type crook who was living in Bangkok. Yeah, I guess like kind of big time. Or tried to go big time.
Kidnapping is not a small crime.
Tried to go big time.
Candy stores.
But
they kidnapped the princess? Or no, the daughter.
The daughter of the richest man in Thailand.
Richest dude. They took his daughter for a ransom.
He's been sending that money to Norval's mom this whole time, which fucks up Norval. Obviously, he's like, so all this time, he's like, do you ever think about why you're living in a Hollywood mansion when your mom doesn't work? And he's like,
it's because of me.
Oh, I never asked for some reason.
And apparently Norval's dad took everybody else's cut of that ransom, and that's why they're trying to fucking torture this man to find out where the money is. And his dad is like, look, I spent it. It's all gone. There's none left. There's nothing I can do for you, but they're not listening to him. They think he's lying. Which
is kind of nuts, though, because like, okay, Norval at this point that's like 20 years ago. Okay. So like 20 years ago, you did a job. And so it's like, it doesn't quite feel like it fits, because
I was unclear about that too. Like the schematic of how that works, because it sounds like to me, like, maybe these guys were in league for multiple kidnappings, and this is the first time he's turned on the group. And that makes him a little more sense. But at the time I was like, okay, so he's like, Norval's like 30 years old at least. So how long ago did this happen? How long have you been chased? How long have you been chained down here? That doesn't make a lot of sense, because they're going to kill you after they're not going to let you live a year, much less 30.
Yeah. Well, and he definitely wrote the letter, so he hasn't been down there like super long.
Yeah, he's only been down there like a couple weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes. It just didn't. So I was like, have they been chasing him for 20 years? Like, I didn't. That was real off.
My guess is what I said, which is that they were career kidnappers. When he was like, Norval's like, so my whole childhood was funded by, and his dad's like, kidnappings. Yeah. And so like, it sounds like there's multiple kidnappings, and this is the first time he's turned on the family for unknown reasons, by the way. We don't know why this was the job he decided to fuck over these incredibly deadly psychopaths. Yeah. But he did.
Norval breaks his dad's thumbs to try and set him free, and it doesn't work because he can't slide his hand out of the cuffs, and they realize that he could just very easily let him go by this hook in the ceiling. So he undoes the hook or whatever.
That was such a circle jerk of a scene, to be honest with you. Like I get kind of what they're going for, but it felt like pointless. It was a long time.
Yeah.
It was a lot of energy spent being worried about something that just seemed like at the end of the day to be a time filler.
So after that is probably my second favorite scene of the movie, where
the doo-doo scene.
Yeah,
I knew you were gonna say
Norval
that.
goes to take a piss right before they like make a final break. He and his dad make a final break, and he finds
Dandy.
Yeah, Dandy, the quote hunchback, taking a wicked shit in the
He's
bathroom.
just a big dude. I don't know what the
He's not a
hunchback thing
hunchback
was
at all. He's a big guy. And so they have this like crazy brawl, and Dandy has no draws on the whole time. He's got some like toilet paper in between his ass cheeks that's like trailing
and it's
him around.
just trailing around. Yeah,
fucking hilarious. And Norval,
I knew Rob would love that shit.
I mean, that was kind of fun, but like the what was really striking to me was how violent Norval got.
Yeah, he
in a
stabs the
fight
dude,
or flight response.
Stabs the dude in the bare dick so many times. So many
20 times. Had to be 20 times. And then
was it with like a fork, like a big fork,
like
or was it
like
with
a grill fork or like a serving?
Yeah. Oh god,
like a 2-pronged thing. It's like that. It's like, please kill me. If you've already done that much, please kill me.
Saran wraps his head, beats him to shit with the saran wrap roll. Anyway,
with a saran
dies.
wrap. That was a little like. I've held saran wrap rolls. I don't know how efficient of a man beating tool that is, especially if your man is a quote unquote hunchback.
Yeah.
So
he was a sturdy
I don't know
man. Sturdy.
He's a sturdy man, and he got his ass whooped by fucking Reynolds wrap
by
or some
Norval.
And Norval. Norval the artist.
Norval weighs 95
Friend of
pounds.
Chance the Rapper.
Yeah. So anyway,
does not have raisin eyes.
He defeats Dandy, and so Viddy, who's like kind of the main baddie at this point, comes back, and he's got like this flaming crossbow that he pulls out of his trunk.
And that's what he was talking about
when he said "my little friend."
Yeah, he was actually referring to his flaming crossbow. So his dad and Norval are like out on the beach, and they're like sort of hiding from Viddy, and his dad tells Norval, he's like, you know what you got to do? You got to like hide away in Viddy's trunk. And whenever he goes to wherever his next stop is, you got to sneak out when he's unsuspecting of you, and then murder him.
We have
That's
to
a terrible
establish
plan.
Terrible fucking plan. The man pulled the crossbow out of his trunk. That is why it is open for him to get in. That would likely mean he's going to put it in the exact
back
same
in his trunk.
place, and you're going to be an unarmed Norval in a trunk.
In a trunk, hunched over in a trunk with a guy with a crossbow holding it in your face. He's just going to shoot you.
He's going to shoot you with a crossbow. Is what's going to
immediately.
And instead, he just like, I'll just throw it at my passenger. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden,
that was
I give
dumb.
a fuck.
I thought that was the thing.
There's a lot of those little things like that that really don't make sense in this movie.
Sea rock. I thought like pick up a sea rock and like wait for him to like go to his car and like bash him in the back of the head.
Dude, that's survival thinking, and Norval doesn't have that apparently, and neither does his dad somehow. I don't know.
So that actually somehow works.
Yeah,
he is able to ride in
if you want to do that.
trunk.
Get a pokey or a rock.
Yeah.
Get in the back seat when he's cranking up the car. Slam the back of his fucking head.
Viddy goes to a good old fashioned orgy at a hotel.
Well, no, he doesn't go to an. Well, okay, so
there's an orgy.
This movie,
there's an orgy.
The choices.
There's a lot of wiener in that scene.
So he goes to a hotel, and when he gets out of his car, he's like calling somebody like, hey, I need like an appointment now. I'm really stressed out. He goes in his hotel. Elijah Wood tries to check into the hotel, which is another dumb idea because you're planning on killing somebody. Now somebody's seeing your face.
Yeah.
Literally the guy who works at the hotel. He tries to check into the hotel.
He's covered in blood still, by the way. No questions
asked. Yeah, he's covered in blood.
No questions asked.
The guy who runs the hotel, this is a fun little aspect that did need to exist. Oh, there's like an orgy or a swingers convention in town. Oh, they're themselves
called geologists.
Geologists, but really they're all just out here having orgy.
Get their fuck on.
That didn't even need to exist. So then the prostitute shows up, and Norval tries to convince her. He's like, I'll pay you a lot of money if you just leave the door open when you leave. So it's easy for him to access. And she treats him like shit and is like, get the fuck out of here, you little piece of shit.
And then doesn't tell him Doesn't tell Viddy. When she gets inside, it's like, hey, there's a fucking weirdo outside your door.
Yeah, trying to get into your room. Yeah,
like,
whatever.
Yeah. There's a lot of moments like that where I'm like, okay, this is falling apart. Like
this whole like ending scene is, and then so he tries to sneak in like through. So then he convinces the guy who runs the hotel. He's like, "There's some chick out there with big tits. You better go check on her in the parking lot." And the guy does.
And then
I don't know what that
disappears.
was.
Can we
disappears?
I need to talk about that scene very briefly.
Please do.
Okay, so yeah, Norval is like baiting this guy who's at the front desk, and he's like, "Yeah, there's this chick out in the parking lot. You gotta go."
He's into jugs.
And he says, he verbatim says like, "Well, I'm what's known in the medical circles as a titty-holic," and which is non-existent and very silly. But it reminded me of a very real life situation that we all experienced when we were in college, having dinner at a what's the pizza joint in town? I can't remember. It doesn't really matter. We're having dinner somewhere.
What? I have no idea what you're talking about.
You don't remember this? You will when I mention it. We were having dinner somewhere, and we were like done with the meal, and the busboy came over or whatever, and he was like cleaning up our table. And we were all joking around, laughing amongst ourselves. And he's like, "Hey, I've got a joke for you guys." And we're like, "Okay, whatever."
Oh my God, I remember this.
Was that a mellow mushroom?
No,
I think it was Al's Pizza.
No,
was it?
No, it doesn't matter. We're having pizza. So the guy comes up and he's like, "I got a joke for y'all." And we're like, "All right." And he's like,
I forgot about this
stop
I do
me.
remember that.
The guy says, "Stop me if you've heard this one before." And we're like, "Okay, sure, no problem." And he goes, "All right, tittyologist." That's the whole joke. That was the whole
and then he
joke.
walked away.
Then he walked away.
He walked away. Tittyologist.
You can't make that shit up.
I thought he said something about big fat titties.
No,
that's.
said,
I mean,
one
in
word.
a manner of speaking.
Tittyologist.
I remember this. That's fucking wild.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, tittyologist is sitting in the motel clerk's chair.
Unbelievable.
And he's reading a magazine called Jugs, while also he has a license plate, a custom license plate on his car that says Jugs, and that's what gives Norval the idea to play to his love of jugs. And it just doesn't make sense, because he's like, there's a woman out there, she got big titties, she's just hanging around a car that says Jugs on it for some reason. And the guy's like, whoa, and goes out and checks it out and then disappears for like a half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason, like he didn't come back to Norval and be like, hey, what the fuck, man? You told me there was a woman. There was nothing like that.
Nothing. Yeah. And the guy, and like he
he
steals like all the
steals
keys.
all the room keys, and the guy doesn't
And the
even
guy
notice
says
it.
like nothing. Yeah. Says nothing about it.
So it's like he
says
just disappears
nothing.
from the movie. He's that his shooting day was done, and that's all they got. I don't understand.
And then Norval breaks into like an adjacent room.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people. There's like what, 4 people, like
four
3 or
Russians,
4
very
dudes,
naked,
and then one
very
chick.
wieners out.
They got their yabos out. They got their wieners out, and he breaks in. That didn't need to exist either, because he doesn't wake them. He goes in, and then he has a fight with Weird Al, Tiny Tim, and then the prostitute is apparently just like really strong. That's like her thing. So she holds Norval down while he gets stabbed.
Yep.
Then she starts freaking out.
Yep.
Then Weird Al leaves.
His tires
and
are popped, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know that.
So then he gets in a wreck. Oh my God, this movie is frustrating me
He's
talking
in a wreck
about
at a
it.
giant
It doesn't make a
arrow
lick of
sign.
sense.
A sign that's shaped like an arrow cuts off part
And
of his skull and
It
brain.
cuts off part of his skull, but he's not dead.
He's wandering forward, half alive.
Here's another thing. He's gonna die. You can see his brain.
Yes, you can
He's
see his
walking down the street. At this point, literally everyone has seen Norval's face. The guy who runs the motel, the prostitute, all the Russians or whatever wake up from the orgy. They see him. This guy has gotten in a wreck. He's going to die. You can see his brain. And still, Norval stabs him
in the exposed brain,
making him a murderer that now everyone has seen. His fucking
I did
face.
think it was an odd choice to have Viddy make really stupid, like dumb insults about his mother right before I was like, listen to me very closely. Your mother's a prostitute. And like, he's trying to make it sound, I guess he's trying to like twist the knife by being like, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to at least like fuck up this kid's brain.
I thought he was trying to like fuck over the dad.
I didn't
or
think
like,
maybe
or like
was happening. I took it as he had no fucking idea what he was saying because his brain was hanging out.
Oh, no.
really?
It's just
I thought he was like I thought he was trying to like, well, if I'm going to die, I might as well fuck with this guy one last time.
Because he's saying like, yeah,
It's possible that
I
he's
knew
being
your
honest.
mother. I knew your mother. She was a prostitute. I banged her, but I couldn't finish when I was banging her because she reminded me of this random
An
British
80s politician. Yeah.
Yeah, which is nonsense, right? That's just like your brain going to shit.
Sorry.
You didn't even
Gonna
finish
get
the
arrested.
bump. We're going to get arrested.
I'll let you finish it.
I took it as legit. So a couple things. One, this movie has already thrown me for like a billion loops and made a bunch of choices that I don't think are good. But so this guy starts talking. He's like, your mom was a prostitute and I slept with her. So then I thought it was going to be like, I'm your dad. Like I'm your real, like,
I didn't even think about that.
because they look more like he's a very kind of skinny guy or whatever. And so, and like weirder looking. I was like, okay, that's like, he's going to be like, we are, or like the whole gang, like hey, your mom was a prostitute. Like we all, like, you don't know, you could have just killed like one of all of your fathers. That was kind of where I thought that they were going with it. But then
it just turns out he's insulting him.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, the fact that he brought up the 80s politician is pretty key for me, thinking that he's trying to just twist the knife. He's like,
so,
well,
yeah.
your mother looks like a man.
I couldn't really figure out.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that whole character. Doesn't make a lick of sense. He's just like, he's a sadist, sure. I mean, there's not a lot to him, I guess, is the issue. And
this whole like last third
his
of the movie,
dying gas breath was like a petty, really convoluted way of saying your mother's a whore. Like,
yeah,
and just to be disparaging towards your mom. Like, that's
and then
pretty weak.
somehow Norville does not get picked up by the police. There's been a wreck.
He hides in the woods for a night.
Yeah, and then he makes his way back to his dad on the beach, who at this point is just like not good, maybe dead. No, he's not dead, because then he like sits down next to him, and what do they like? Just does he like talk to him or something? And then his dad reaches over and like
tells his dad something
hand.
he's afraid it'll make him a bad person, but he tells his dad, he says, I always made mom wait for you. I always drove away the men in her life.
He didn't let his mom get over his dad because he always thought his dad would come back. And we think at this point his dad looks dead, but then he like very slowly moves his hand and like holds his son's hand, and they're just like sitting on the beach together.
It's very moving.
And that's the end of the movie.
Except it wasn't. It like could have been. It could have been.
It was fine.
If the last third of this movie wasn't just like Wacky Town, then like maybe I could have like been in a headspace to be like, oh yeah, I feel something.
To me, I'm fine with like wacky bullshit. Like I'm fine with some of that, but like the issue with this movie is this: it sets up a lot of pins that it just doesn't care to knock down by the end. Like, think about like the best example I can think of off the top of my head is the coroner woman. Like, the only service, like you spend a lot of time getting to know this woman for her being somebody that's not, that's there for business purposes. Like, she's being extra nice to this kid. She's saying, oh, you have kind eyes. Oh, I have no filter. We're learning a lot about this character. And then the only time she comes back is when Norval's in a low point, calling her drunk. And then she never shows up again. There's a lot of this sort of like setting up pieces for a chess move that never happens. And it just, it doesn't feel like this movie was well thought out in the plot department is my problem.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys have anything else you want to mention before you rate? We're
already going there. So
yeah. Let's get into it.
Randy, you were already kind of doing it. Out of 5, how you feel?
So, just going to continue my thought on that. So, like, it just seems like there's a lot of things set up that don't really pay off. And then there's a lot of, weirdly, instead of paying those things off, they use a lot of filler. Like, they use a filler about breaking his dad's hand, like, just to make a cringe, like, just to make a gory moment. I don't know what was the point of that? Just to be like, oh, we're both dumb. Like, I'm going to, like, just like this guy's been down there for at least a week, I gotta think, and he doesn't know that he's clipped on by a fucking carabiner. Like what? Like you would know your whole surroundings. You've got nothing to do but slam your chain around. You're gonna notice if it's like how it's attached and shit. So even if you like disregard that, it's like, what is this in terms of filmmaking? This is filler. This is just like for a laugh, and it doesn't land as a laugh. It lands as like that's okay, yeah. And then there's just like a lot, and then like things get kind of wackadoo after that. But that's not necessarily bad. Like I can go, like him going to the motel or whatever, I can get behind all that. But he does everything poorly. Like he talks to this prostitute. Like if the prostitute's going to be there, you can't kill this guy. You got to be like as soon as she leaves, you got to play the waiting game or some shit. Like he's just doing really stupid things, and it's hard to sympathize with him or empathize with him, especially considering how hard it was to empathize with him in the first place, because he's such a like a dopey shithead about his like music connections and all this shit. He's like a privileged white kid from fucking Beverly Hills who's bragging about knowing Chance the goddamn rapper. Like I don't want to I'm rooting for him, but at a certain point I cross over the Rubicon. It's like, okay, I can finally overlook the haircut, and I can like empathize with this kid who's dealing with something really fucked up. He just seems like a normal kid who's like, I don't know, got some like his weird interests or whatever, a little too much interest in celebrity and all that shit. But he's overall an okay guy. But then all that shit sort of goes away when he starts having a fight or flight, and he's doing everything really stupidly. It's really tough to maintain a level of interest in his safety at a certain point. The dad character really doesn't pay off. He gets to say final things to his dad. Like there are things, that's the only thing that like gets any sort of resolution, and it really doesn't to me. Like him stabbing a dude in the brain after accidentally running him off the road, like that wasn't satisfying for me. If they didn't include the dad in any part of that, like we didn't learn more about that situation. I don't know. And then there's a lot of like little like plotting things, like getting in the trunk's a terrible idea. How did he not get discovered? Going through someone else's hotel room is a terrible idea. How did he not, he did, I guess. Yeah. But like, how did that work out as well as it did? Why did a guy go out to look at some lady with big jugs and not immediately go out to the parking lot, which is right outside the window, look at the fucking parking lot and come back and say, no, there's not. Like, how does that not, like, so it just compounds.
Or go looking for the guy who just stole all his keys.
Yeah. And so like all of these things sort of compound on itself. And the thing is, like, I had no expectations for this movie. I don't think I watched the trailer. If I did, I didn't recall it. And I like Elijah Wood, so I was in it. I wanted to like it. I wanted to be to be on the movie side and like make it work better than it did. And there were some genuinely intriguing things in this movie. It could have gone into the Repulsion level thing where it's Elijah Wood trapped in a house with a corpse and has to deal with his dead father being an asshole. That would have been its own kind of interesting movie, maybe, but it subverted that, which isn't always good. But in this case, I was like, oh, wow, cool. Okay, so there's somebody chained up and it's his real dad. Okay, this is interesting. But it just gets squandered at the end, and it doesn't really feel like him and his dad have a connection. I don't know. Overall, I think that I don't know. I think the plot could have used some revisions, is kind of the main thing. Like, there's not a whole lot of satisfying resolution to the main character for my taste. And there's also like way less resolution for all the pieces that are put into play throughout the course of the movie. There's a fucking cop character who shows up just to, I think, be silly and fun. At the time, I was like, okay, so this guy's going to turn out to be in on it or something. He's going to be in on some conspiracy or some shit. And that's why he's acting so weird. He's not really a cop. But no, he's just there to talk about people having raisin eyes. And that is literally fucking it. And goes away. And then they talk about it with coroner. Like, yeah, the guy said I didn't have raisin eyes. Like, what does that mean? That's fucking weird. And then the coroner goes away forever. So what the fuck is the point of any of that? This movie just has a lot of filler. This movie could have been a short film, and it might have been pretty much tighter, in my opinion. It would have been a much tighter, maybe better story overall, but it wasn't that. So for that, all those critiques and everything, I'm going to give it a
5 stars.
2 star.
2 star. For Randy.
I don't hate it, but it just really squanders a lot of goodwill on my part. So,
all right, Juice. What about you?
Yeah. This movie has like pieces that I think are good. I also really enjoyed the scene where he's bragging about himself. I thought it was like well acted, well written, and like the tension there was real. I like the setting still. The house was like a cool design. I feel like that it was underutilized, like the beach aspect and stuff like that, but it still looked cool. The fight scene with the hunchback was pretty cool, actually. But then a lot of the choices they make, I just don't agree with. I think they were poor choices. I didn't really gravitate to the silliness of things as they started to get silly, because like the first part of the movie wasn't really like that. And they just didn't land well for me. And there's not anybody that's like, it's hard to like root for Elijah Wood. I can kind of see where you're like, oh, he's this pathetic sad boy. And then maybe he like mans up at the end, is able to like kill people. But like, that's not really what I was rooting for him. I don't like his overall arc is not really what I wanted. And he's like the character you're supposed to gravitate to, but for the most part, he's still like really pathetic and makes really bad choices. I never found him like super like relatable or likable. And I just didn't particularly like following him around. I don't know. I just can't understand a lot of the choices that were made, like story wise. I don't know, humor wise, but there were some decent aspects of it. So I'm going to give it a 2 as well.
All right. A 2 from Juice. I don't know, man. This movie is very, very fine. I think overall it's a solid VOD rental. Like if this was in the movie theater, I might treat it a little more harshly.
Yeah.
But like I appreciate the very, very dark humor of it. The first act is definitely my favorite, where you've got this like very meek, skittish Elijah Wood character meeting whom he thinks is his father, and his father's just like this huge prick, like doesn't give a shit about him, very, very crass, and like the conflict between those two character types is like very intriguing and very funny, and that's by far my favorite act. Once his quote dad dies, it becomes less interesting to me, because at that point, like, we know Elijah Wood, everybody else we barely know. We barely get to know anybody else, and we've got Elijah Wood carrying us through this movie, and all we know about him is like he's a struggling alcoholic who's essentially a failed musician, or an aspiring musician,
I guess,
who still lives.
He at least brags about people that he knows that he doesn't.
Yeah, you don't have,
and he also has a gold iPhone, but somehow lives with his mom because he's struggling. I guess because of the alcoholism. It's obviously not financial.
You don't have much to latch onto with his character, really. But the conflict between him and his dad is interesting, specifically because you think it's his real dad, but then it's not.
Yeah.
And then it's less interesting when you find that out, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
There's a lot of comedy, though, and when it does get action-packed, the action is good. Specifically, the battle with the hunchback, that whole scene is like very, very intriguing. There's some humor when he gets to the motel, but overall the third act is by far the worst act, because nothing seems to matter whatsoever.
That feels like an Into the Dark episode, whereas the rest felt like a prestige-worthy movie to a certain extent.
It just kind of falls apart towards the end in a way, which is a bummer. Overall, it's not terrible. It's not great. It's fine. I think it's better. It's more good than it is bad. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. A little bit more favorable than y'all. So it's going to put our aggregate at a 2.3 for Come to Daddy. Let's go ahead and get into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Come to Daddy.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, guys. So for those who do not know, our Rotten Tomatoes segment is a segment in which I am going to look at the critic score and then the user score on the RottenTomatoes.com website. We are going to have these two gentlemen, Juice and Rob, guess their best guesses out of 100% at what those scores are. So we're going to start with the critic score. Bob, why don't you give us a start here? What do you think out of 100 for the critics? By the way, there are 78 critics that have reviewed this.
78 critics. I'm going to give this a 60.
60. Okay. Juice, what are you thinking?
Good guess, Bob. I think it's lower though. So I'll go 55.
55 and Rob 60?
Yep.
Okay, you're both way off. Rob's closest. The score is 88%. It's a certified fresh film. 78 scores. Here is the critic consensus. Bloody horror with barbed wit. Come to Daddy anchors brutal violence and a surprisingly mature approach to provocative themes. That seems like a word jumble to me, because this movie is a kind of word jumble.
What the fuck?
Disagree.
Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from.
Well, let's see
what are
if you
some
got-
of the top critics are saying?
Okay, let's see what a positive things. Things become really strange, violent, and ridiculous, says Dennis Schwartz. Yep. Should you be ready for a quick and thirsty thriller that isn't afraid to make you laugh with an occasional moment of gross content and bodily harm, then come to Daddy, says
Why
Mike
is it a
Reyes.
thirsty thriller? I don't understand
don't
that
know.
adjective.
One thing we didn't really mention, actually, there's a really, really cool moment where like Elijah Wood gets stabbed through the cheeks with like a hairpin or something like that.
Oh, no, it's with like a receipt.
Oh,
Receipt.
It's the same thing he took to stab the guy with.
like
Yeah,
a receipt
it's
spike, and he pulls it out and then stabs the guy. That whole moment is actually pretty gruesome and pretty
I like,
impactful.
yeah, I thought that was pretty impressive. He's walking around with that thing in his mouth for a while, and
Yeah.
Becky's like, take it out.
Yeah.
Another person said, it achieves the deadpan and the darkness, but it is never funny. So that's more accurate. It's still a positive review somehow that said that. Anyway, let's see if you guys are a little more in tune with the users. Here at Straight Chillin' Enterprises, we always fight for the oozers.
Fight!
Juice, why don't you start us off this time? There are, count them, 5 verified.
5,
ratings.
baby. Damn.
Wow. So,
So
give us your
5,
best
we
score.
talking 20, 40, 60, 80%. I guess I'll land on the 60% for the viewers.
60% for Juice. Bob, do you have a preference?
I'll go with 80.
80%. Bing, 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 bing. Somebody got it right on the money. Bob sweeping this
Bob sweeping the board.
80% from the verified ratings of users. That is not a very big sample size, so I mean, take that for what it's worth.
Still, it's like in line with the critics.
Yeah.
It is.
I know it's small
so
sample
far, it's a
size,
pretty
but-
new movie, and that
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes being what it is now is less reviews in general. Who knows? You know, and in a couple of years, maybe this movie will have a more mellowed out, representation that takes us into account. Thank God. We need our voices.
Thank God. Yeah. How do we get on here?
I want to be a certified piece of shit on.
I should be a
Rotten
top
Tomatoes.
critic. I've earned it. I deserve
Yeah,
it.
we've earned it. We've dedicated our lives
A certified
reviewing
piece of
things. Yeah.
A certified piece of
Yep.
shit.
That's what I want to be.
The straight chilling
I can do
crew. Right there.
I believe that I can do that.
It's on our business card.
Certified piece of shit. All right.
All right, and that's Rotten Tomatoes, you pieces of shit.
All right. So we don't really have
So-
any trivia because it's kind of a new
There
movie.
wasn't.
Okay.
I meant to work this in. I just forgot. There was one interesting piece of trivia.
EJ?
So let me learn you something real quick. The origin of the movie came when Ant Timpson, is that his name? Ant Timpson?
Yeah,
it is, yeah.
strange name.
Yeah.
So when when his father passed away. At the time, his father's partner thought it was best to bring him home after embalmment as a way to spend time with the grieving family. So,
That's terrible.
yeah, so apparently they spent a week with the corpse in an open coffin after he was embalmed. And then Ant Timpson was in the house and people kept showing up to pay respects like to his father. And they kept sharing stories of a man that he didn't associate with as his father. And he found it, I guess, very strange.
That's a better movie than this. I want to see that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
It seems like they.
yeah, just that is
That's a
more
better
intriguing.
story. Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand how this wound up taking the turns that it did. Then,
Yeah,
because I
don't
now
either.
understand some of the some of the things that you just described are the cause of several of those loose threads that I was talking about in my review. It's like,
Yeah,
I understand why they're included now, but it doesn't mean that they were paid off the way they ought to have been.
Yeah.
They were certainly not given the weight that they deserve then.
yeah.
This movie
So,
is
I thought that was interesting.
It's the Greasy Strangler. You know,
Oh,
I
it's not.
I think we can all agree on that.
oh. Anyway, let's.
You're a bullshit artist.
It's time to go hunting. We're talking Cooter of the Week.
Cooter of the Week.
Justin.
let's hunt them down. So Cooters, they have 5 points they can hit on. They need at least 3 to be considered the Cooter. We talking smug arrogance, sexual deviance, manipulation, attire, and patheticness. So,
Is there a non-Cooter in this movie?
yeah, that's what I was
That's
thinking.
the
Because
question.
just starting off, Elijah Wood,
Yep.
Norval.
Attire
Attire is
far and away.
Check.
yeah. Patheticness.
Check.
Far
Quite
and away.
high.
Yep.
Smug arrogance.
A little bit of smug arrogance in there.
He's
Manipulation.
smug. Manipulation. He's
Yeah.
a liar.
He does lie a little bit.
And a scotch of sexual deviance with the corner.
Ring
a little
a
bit.
ling.
I'll at least give him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the alcoholism and his dad
Yeah.
being dead or whatever.
True.
Yeah.
You know, people spiral. That's not fine,
Sure.
but it is a thing that happens, and I can look.
He
But that's
keeps
a lot of
pushing,
points.
I guess. Yeah,
That's a
she's
lot
like,
of
no,
points.
thank you. She tries to be polite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of
He's-
pushes it
he's
a
got
little
He's
too
got
far.
a solid 3 points on the 5-point spectrum of Cooterdom.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
easily Cooter.
easy.
Let's talk
Cooter.
about Gordon Fake Dad.
Yeah, he
Manipulation, obviously.
manipulation.
True.
Yeah, he's pretending to be
He-
somebody's dad.
He dresses like he dresses like Tommy Bahama himself.
Take my eyes, but not the shirt.
Is he pathetic?
Not really.
I
In
guess
a
in his
manner of
alcoholism,
speaking, but, like,
maybe a little bit.
He's
But,
we
yeah.
find out this is so weird. We find out that he has a tattoo of an RIP tattoo to his son who died in the exact same way that Norval tried to kill himself in a bathtub with a knife.
Oh yeah,
But he doesn't really
I
react
forgot
to
about
that.
that aspect. Yeah,
But weirdly, Norval's real dad's like, "Oh yeah, that happened to him. It's real sad story." It's like, I don't know what to make.
that was
of
weird. Yeah,
I really don't know what to make of it. It's like,
Forgot about
okay,
that
those
whole
dots
aspect.
connected, but it doesn't make a picture. Like,
It's just like some squigglies.
yeah,
I guess he doesn't hit as many. But the Jethro, the Tiny Tim,
tiny
guy.
ass motherfucker.
he
Yeah, so
sexual deviance high,
Check.
high.
Attire and
check.
appearance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he definitely hits
Looks
on
like
that.
Tiny Tim.
Smug arrogance,
Yeah.
maybe with the whole like the calling your mom a prostitute and saying she looks like a man and stuff. That's a little.
I think you got to
cocky
be
when
pretty
you're about
smug,
to
arrogant to explain to somebody why the pin that you've covered in fecal matter is going to kill them.
die. That's true.
Kinda-
And cover it in your own shit.
He's very proud of
that's-
his own shit being on.
High
Yeah.
grade shit right
Yeah.
there. The best
High
shit.
grade.
Yeah.
Best shit.
What else is there?
He could be seen a little as pathetic, in the way like the prostitute he hired. He's hiring a prostitute, which falls into the sexual deviancy, but like the way he has, but she's got him in like a headlock.
That's more of sexual deviancy. Like I don't know.
That's just a kink, baby. We're not kink.
That's
shaming.
a kink. You know, I don't want to kink shame. I don't want to kink shame a man.
We're not doing that here.
As long as your kink, unless your kink is like poo pins, putting them in people, then I think for the most part,
it's all or nothing. We're either shamers or we're not.
Hey, Randy, you're a fucking prude, baby.
Oh shit! Please don't stab me with your poo.
If you can't handle a little doo doo on your pen, then you ain't cut out.
Fucking, you're not cut out
baby.
for straight chilling, baby.
God damn! I'll never be the cooter I was born to be.
We're all about poo pins here at Straight Chilling.
Then you're not hashtag hard with us, Randy.
That's right. I'm soft without you.
Soft without you. Damn.
I know you are, baby.
I know.
Baby.
So I don't know. Like, what else? What other points are there for him?
I think he hits like high enough.
Yeah, that's a good 3. It's a good 3.
Like the appearance is really.
Yeah,
like, it is Tiny Tim, who's already kind of a creepy man, but he leveled it out by being a charming and nice human being. Meanwhile, this guy, he's not that charming. He's really not that nice. He's just kind of
we got some cooters up in this Come to Daddy, and the movie is called Come to Daddy.
Jugs, the Jugs guy,
Jugs guy. I mean, he's just there.
There's nobody in this movie that's not at least hitting at least 2 points.
We're not king shaming.
If you don't like Yabos,
we're not king shaming over here.
You can
but
out.
Like when you have to like leave your job because somebody says there is somebody with big titties outside, maybe you have a problem.
Never to return to your job.
Yeah, and you're still looking for half an hour. He's digging through bushes for these big jugs.
That's some funny shit. There's
got to be some Yabos out here somewhere.
I'm gonna find him.
He's gonna find the fucking golden egg before he finds the Yabos. It's crazy.
I feel like the world would be a much better place if like the word Yabos they caught on more.
We're doing the Lord's work. That's a
hell of a theory. That's a hell of a theory you got.
Yeah,
a much more enjoyable world.
We definitely Elijah Wood, hardcore cooter in this movie. The other dude,
I think he's got to take it for the
Jethro.
Cooter of the week.
Jethro, yeah.
I mean, Jethro's.
I'll give it to Elijah Wood though. I'll give it to. I don't mind giving Elijah Wood Cooter of the week. I think he's just cooter in life.
He hits every point at least somewhat, and I think the only reason that Jethro doesn't supersede him is because we spend less time with Jethro or Yiddy or whatever his name is.
Yeah,
and I think if we spent more time with him, we would definitely be he's Cooter of the week. But for what we know about Elijah, and for the fact that it was almost impossible to get over how he was in order to empathize with him as a protagonist, I think he earned it.
Yeah. Cooter of the week.
We found him. Cooter of the week, Elijah Wood.
We caught him.
Bam.
We got him.
Caught him.
Get him.
We always get our man.
We always get him. Last bit of shit we got to take care of this week on Straight Chilling. Bit of shit. We got our Hotline Scream segment. We got one voicemail to play this week. If you are currently listening and would like to call in and leave us a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, you can hit us up at 904-638-3231. This week, we got a voicemail from the one, the only Jackie B. Let's go ahead and hear what Jackie has to say.
What's up, guys? It's Jackie B calling from Chicago. Just thought I'd give you a ring. I wanted to let you know I'm really loving the Bracket of Blood. I've been having a lot of fun with that. Me and some friends have been partaking, and it's been pretty. I've been pretty happy with the way the votes have been turning out. Most of them I agree with. So thanks for putting all that together. You guys are awesome. I just wanted to bring up a movie I saw the other day that I thought was really sweet. It's called The Girl with All the Gifts. It's like a zombie movie, but it's they kind of did a really interesting take on it, where it's basically what would happen if pregnant women were infected with basically like a zombie disease, and what would happen to the unborn children of those mothers, and basically it takes place in like a school that they built in an army facility for these kids that are kind of like half infected with the zombie disease, but like, yeah, it's kind of about this one child who develops like a really touching friendship with one of the teachers in this like zombie kid school. I don't want to give away too much, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting take on the whole zombie trope. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, and if you guys have seen it, or if not, I'd highly suggest you check it out. So, yeah, just wanted to call and say what's up and say thanks again for putting all this stuff together for the Bracket of Blood. I'm really enjoying that. So, all right, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks for calling, Jackie. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. Have you guys seen The Girl with All the Gifts?
It was an interesting concept. Yes, I agree, Randy. I am intrigued by as she was describing it. I thought she was going to go in like a more horrific way, but then when she mentioned like the school or whatever, I was like, oh, that's
I'm trying to remember. I'm gonna have to look it up. Some pretty big name actress, as I recall, was in that as the teacher. I'm gonna look it up real quick. But yeah, it was. It came out like a couple years ago, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
2016. 2016.
Yeah. I have not seen it.
British film. No, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by it, man.
Glenn Close.
Really? Wow, that's a big name.
Yeah.
Any zombie movie that like transcends, where people are like, "Yo, you got to check out this zombie movie," then it's probably pretty great, because there's so fucking many zombie movies at this point. Like,
it's true.
It's hard to rise above, you know.
Yeah. There's so many takes on the zombie genre. This is kind of, I count that as sort of being within that, or like, there's just a wave of zombie movies that happen pretty much every year, and they're a lot of the times really easy to gloss. Yeah. This is kind of one that got lost in the shuffle for me for sure. But if Jackie's speaking for it, maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah.
If you guys could switch out, and this will be the Hotline Scream prompt. If you could switch out, like we get a like ton of zombie movies. If you could like switch that out with like one other creature, like if there was one thing you wish we just had like more of, if you could like trade like the zombie trope for like a different kind of monster, what would you choose?
Oof. I don't know, man. Gollum? I don't know.
More Gollum movies. I need more Gollum.
We have more Gollum movies. So you wish we had like 3 or 4 Gollum movies every year, Randy?
I don't know. I don't think any creature needs that much exposure. But that was just the first thing that came to my mind.
If you could do a swap. Know, man.
We had vampires for a while too, so I don't want that. We even kind of had as an offshoot of that werewolf movies like that. So like sort of like the standard tried and true monsters are just not interesting to explore like at this point, unless you have a solid as fuck idea and an impeccable execution.
I need more Dybbuk movies.
You need
more what?
More Dybbuk movies.
The Dybbuk.
I don't know what that is.
I only know of that because of A Serious Man. That is a great fucking scene.
That movie is incredible.
That's a great fucking movie.
It's one of my favorites.
It's great.
After getting The Lighthouse, I wish we had more like seafaring like horror. I know we might
clearly
talk about,
you've
like,
never seen Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest. So.
We might be talking about Creature from the Black Lagoon, and it's interesting that like back in the day, like that was one of like kind of the essential monster movies or whatever. But that's just not something you get a lot these days. They even joke about it in like Cabin in the Woods, like, oh, we never get mermaid or whatever. Not even necessarily like sirens or mermaid, just like water or sea creatures, some kind of like aquatic. I guess we got Shape of Water too. I mean, that kind of broke out, but I think it would be a cool aspect to explore more.
Some like giant octopus movies or whatever. There have been like a recent resurgence of like shark movies, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
No kink shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some shark movies and shit.
That's true.
But yeah, call in, let us know what horror subgenre you would like to see more of. Hit us up at 904-638-3231 and let us know. We'll feature that on next week's show. That's going to do it for us here this week on Straight Chilling. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show. We're going to be talking about the winner of the February poll pick, which was High Tension.
Whoa, it's so high.
So
Switchblade Romance.
I am, aka Switchblade Romance. I'm stoked to talk about this. I haven't seen it in a few years, and
I have never seen it.
It's part of the new French extremity wave. It's
which we all seem to be pretty big fans of.
We all have extremities, so
and we're new and we're French.
You know, we're
no
French.
kink shaming here.
No kink shaming, baby. That's not what we're
extremities, man. Whew. That's what I'm all about.
Hashtag soft without you.
Sard with us.
Hashtag
Sard with us.
Without you.
Hashtag shart with us.
That's
no kink shaming.
That's a pretty good hashtag for the loneliest people on Valentine's Day.
I am
hashtag soft without you.
I think that one might catch
Suffered
on.
a big breakup right before Valentine's Day. Here's my new hashtag.
Damn, we're a week too late.
It's a shame. It's a real shame.
I'm really into shart play personally.
Hashtag shart with.
Hashtag shart with us. Hashtag shart play. Hashtag shart week.
We've got a lot of good hashtags.
The best hashtag.
The week after Valentine's Day is hashtag Shart Week, if you're unfamiliar.
Dude, we need to have a Shart Week here on Straight Chillin'.
Live every week like it's Shart Week.
Like it's Shart Week. Oh, shit.
I feel like that's after like Cinco de Mayo when you go and blast it like
that's what's the day after Fat Tuesday? Ash Wednesday could be Shart Week.
The beginning of Shart Week.
Oh my god.
Upcoming Straight Chilling's first ever hashtag Shart Week.
Oh my god, it's Shart Week. Oh god.
That's the name of the Straight Chilling horror movie, Shart Week. That's what
dude, that's our new we're coming out with a third podcast. It's called Shart Week. We're all gonna discuss shitting and assholes for every week of the year.
Damn.
That's what's happening.
Oh, my cheeks hurt. From sharding.
He's just smiling and sharting all day long.
We're going to be back next week. We're talking about High Tension. Definitely check that movie out. Get ready for next week's review. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join our Slack channel, just hit us up on any one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can join in on the Slack channel daily chats. We talk about the movie of the week, talk about TV shows, music, horror news, whatever else we want to talk about. We also talk about physical media, baby.
Oh god.
So until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
We're gonna get arrested.